Insurance isn't one size fits all. That's why drivers have enjoyed Progressive's Name Your Price tool for years now. With the Name Your Price tool, you tell them what you want to pay, and they'll show you options that fit your budget. So whether you're picking out your first policy or just looking for something that works better for you and your family, they make it easy to see your options. Visit Progressive.com. Find a rate that works for you with the Name Your Price tool. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared, sharp betting information.
Welcome back to podcast 7 of 2026. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. Follow me on Twitter at OBKiev. Follow us at the Odds Breakers. Follow us on social media / the Odds Breakers. This episode is being brought to you by FanDuel Sports, a proud partner with the NFL. If you'd like to support the Odds Breakers and benefit from our premium plays, please visit theoddsbreakers.com. Click shop, become a member, pick any for winning cappers to get the premium plays before the line moves. You can also support us on patreon.com. And if nothing else, please visit the Odds Breakers and become a free picks and Telegram subscriber. And then there were 4. My friends, 4 teams left in the NFL. We're going to talk about that. Real excited for this week. College basketball is rolling on a little hot streak myself at college basketball. In college basketball, I should say. Check us out at the Odds Breakers if you'd like to join in on the fun. Promo code basketball25. You get $100 off any package. 50% off any membership. Sean Kanaki is crushing it himself. He's on a heater in college basketball. Love feeling like this in late January. And another thing that I love is we have a great guest in Will Hill from VSiN in the Should Have Bet More podcast to talk some NFL and college basketball for the weekend. Podcast on a decent start. As you know, we went 54% last year in our podcast plays. And I'll bring up the numbers right now. We're 7-6 this year. So started out 1-2, went 6-4 last week, 7-6 for the year. Hopefully that keeps up. Our beer bet banger of GCU plus 220 hit. Had a great show with Kyle Hunter and Josh Nunn on Spaces on Tuesday night. We're going to be doing Spaces on different days throughout the week, but one a week. So everything is working very swell. So a lot to talk about here, but we always like to start with is college basketball ATS and over-under. Starting with the best covering teams in the land. Looks like Portland State finally faltered. They're now number 2. Mercer number 1, 15-2. Portland State 10-2-1. Stephen F. Austin 14-3. Sam Houston 13-3. Miami, Ohio 13-4, still on that tear. DePaul, Eastern Michigan, Florida Atlantic, and Hofstra all 13-5. 12-5 for Hofstra. So those are your best covering teams. Just of note, Virginia 11-5-2. It looks like they're kicking some butt this season, beating expectations. Big props to Virginia. Iowa sitting there at 13-6. Let's go to the worst covering teams. Texas Southern 2-13. UTSA 3-14. Gross. Marquette, what happened to you? 4-15-1. Georgetown 4-14. Whenever you think Georgetown's going to be decent or formidable from the beginning of the season, they just fall apart. Loyola Chicago is trash at 5-15. Western Carolina 4-12. James Madison, they were good last year. They're not good this year. 5-13. Eastern Carolina 5-13. That's a fun fade team right there. East Carolina, got to fade them. Jacksonville State 4-10-1. Rider 4-10-3. So those are your worst covering teams. A couple big teams, both the Mississippi and Mississippi State 6-13 ATS. Tennessee a gross 6-12. Off to the land of totals. We have Denver still hanging at 15-1. Man, they've been just scoring some points. Big game tonight against North Dakota State. I almost took that over. Louisiana Monroe, 14-4. Kent State, Miami, Ohio, and Elon, 13-4. Long Beach State, 12-4-1. And then you have a Utah, New Orleans, Providence, all at 14-5. Pretty much going to stop there, actually. Go to the unders. The big unders teams, Hawaii, 3-12. We're on that tonight. You'll know when you get this show if they went over or under this game. Cincinnati, 4-15. Arlington, 4-13. Fordham, great unders team, 4-13. Pepperdine, Michigan State, Eastern Michigan, 5-13, 5-14-ish. And then you have to get to Delaware for 4-10. So those are your biggest unders teams. Anything prominent going up? You got Nebraska at 6-13 to the under. I would say Duke 6-12 to the under. 6 unders, 12 or 6 overs, 12 unders. And what's the next team? Boston College, 7 overs, 12 unders. So those are your unders teams for the week. Now, I want to get into a little NFL, my friends. And we're going to talk about NFL when Will comes on, but I want to give you my quick handicaps first. So, in general, what I'm noticing is that defense again wins championships. At least the NFL is officiating it like that. They're swallowing their whistles, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You saw them swallow the whistles with the Bears game. There was 4 accepted penalties the whole game with the Bears against the Rams. There was one outlier last week, but in general, the refs aren't making big calls. And, yeah, of course, that hurts the holding side, I guess, that if you're taking away points. But if you are smart and do your research, my guy Joe Gibbs at NFL Ref Stats already has some great stats up on some of these refs. I think that's important. When you look into the games, you got to know what you're dealing with here. And a couple of these officials here, Alex Kemp is massive when it comes to favorites. 31-3 straight up since 2014. That's 91% straight up, and 28-6, 83% ATS. Let's see what Will has to think about that. New England's a road favorite, -5, -4.5-ish right now. This is a situation, too, where Kemp is a little bit more of an unders ref, 11-5 to the under, and he likes to call holding. So, that factors in here. He likes to call offensive holding penalties in general. He's top 5 in false starts and offensive holding. So we'll see how he's going to officiate that. But, all those numbers kind of point towards a little bit more towards the under, right? Now, he does call a lot of face masks as well. The Broncos are number 1 penalized team. Actually, the Patriots are the number 1 penalized teams for face mask infractions. And in the playoffs, Kemp's a little bit better, 3-2 against the spread for home playoff teams. So that contradicts his favorites a little bit. Home teams are also 4-1 straight up with him in the playoffs. So a little bit of contradictory there if you like the Denver side. I mean, in this situation, what you're doing is guessing, okay? What you're doing is guessing. The truth is I have these teams power rated pretty close to each other. I kind of feel both teams are a little bit overrated. And this is without the Bo Nix injury, obviously, because the Bo Nix injury does change things. But, without the Bo Nix injury, I have both teams about 3 to 4 points better than the average team. I actually have the Patriots slightly better. So if that's the case with a Bo Nix, you're looking at Denver minus a half point, -1. But I'm only awarding the Patriots 4 points for the downgrade, taken away from Denver 4 points, because in this situation, I really think that the home crowd and the cold, because it is going to be cold there. There shouldn't be like winds this weekend, but 17 degrees in Denver is going to affect a little bit of the offense there of the Patriots. The Patriots played in 32, 35 degrees last week in New England, but it's a different type of cold out here in Denver in Mile High Stadium. The Broncos also have the best home field advantage in football. I have the Patriots -3 in this game, and you're looking at 5, okay? So, in my opinion, just like I gave out the 5.5 on Tuesday's show, I'm still sticking with that because I don't see a reason that the Patriots, who have been the most fortunate team via schedule and injuries here in the playoffs, I don't have a good enough reason that they're going to run it up on Denver, because Denver's got a great defense, and Sean Payton is going to slow this game down. Okay? That's the big part of my handicap here, and that's why there's been more pressure on the under in this game, moving it down to 42.5. So I even think that still might be a little bit high for this game in this situation. It's going to be a raucous crowd. But Jarrett Stidham has not played since 2023 more than just taking a knee, okay? He hasn't thrown a pass since 2023, which is worrisome. But the question is, can he get it done? And looking at his past, he did win a few games in 2022, so I do give him some credit for that. You have to actually kind of go pretty far back, to see kind of what kind of stats he had up. He never made it as a starting quarterback, clearly in the league. I don't think he ever sniffed anything like that. But he is a viable backup for the way this game is run. Now, another thing that's kind of interesting is that J.K. Dobbins might be coming back very soon. I don't think he's necessarily going to make it back this game, but if he does, there's going to give them a bump. And he did practice in a limited capacity on Wednesday, designated soon to come off IR. According to reports, he has a chance to play. Throughout the season, Denver's offense ranks 15th in EPA. Probably give them a downgrade because of the quarterback. And then they rank number 8th in defensive EPA. They also had an easier schedule similar to New England, nowhere near New England, but they still had an easier schedule in general, being that the AFC West was so beat up. But it's not as significant as what New England got. So I think that Drake May has a struggling game. I think he struggles to pass the ball. I think they key on Ramondre Stevenson a little bit, because if I'm Denver, I try to make it easy and throw it to Ramondre Stevenson. If I'm the Patriots, I do that. But if I'm Denver, I'm kind of knowing that. And at the same time, Diggs and Butte should be pretty well covered by a very, very talented Denver secondary. Pat Surtain will probably be on Diggs. They might put Diggs in motion and try to free him up some. Vrabel is a good coach. But they also got Hufanga back there at strong safety. Riley Moss at right cornerback. Jaquan McMillan in the nickel. This is a very, very talented and healthy secondary for the Denver Broncos. So I, just like the Chargers kind of got to Drake May in the beginning, I think they're going to get to him. I see a low-scoring game. I have a very strong lean to the under, as well as playing the side at the +5 that I already gave out. Next game, the Seattle Seahawks is -2 against the Rams. And the Rams total is 46.5. So this game is pretty fascinating as well because you have a Rams team that's just been spluttering lately and the Seahawks team that has just kind of been red hot coming into the playoffs. And sometimes that's all it takes is just being hot at the right time. It sure as heck works with baseball. My situation states that I like the Seattle Seahawks at -2.5. I actually had to lay more juice than the number is now because of the Zach Charbonnet injury. Here's the thing about the injury. Velus Jones is going to be there. They picked up somebody off the scrap heap too. When does a half a point factor in for a backup running back? Because that's kind of what the market is doing, I think. I think Seattle is getting a half a point for this, and I disagree with it. Kenneth Walker can carry this load, in my opinion. This defense is playing absolutely out of their minds. And Sam Darnold is not making the mistakes that we've seen in the past. He's kind of looking at this as a redemption year, which I wish I knew a long time ago. It's hard to trust him. You know, that's why these lines are where they're at. They're sharper lines. But I just don't see DeMarcus Lawrence, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, and Derek Hall not getting to Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford still has a finger injury. He did not play well against the Bears in that terrible defense. You have a much better line grabbing crew in Seattle. Devin Witherspoon at cornerback. You know, they have a fantastic secondary. Ernest Jones and linebacker. This is a serious team. Now, what's funny about this total is you saw these games go over before. As a matter of fact, I kind of thought the Rams kind of got screwed a little bit and should have won the last game. But that's then, and this is now. The Rams are not playing well right now, and the Seattle Seahawks are playing much better, and the addition of Rashid Shaheed, especially on special teams, has been fantastic. Cooper Kupp played for the Rams. He's going to win a big game. Don't need to say much about JSN. You already know what he is. Possible Offensive Player of the Year, JSN. Most likely, actually. You know, this Seattle team is serious. The LA Rams are a little bit banged up themselves. You know, remember they lost Rob Havenstein a while ago. You saw Jaquan Brisker get to Matthew Stafford last week. I think they get to him. Byron Young's a little bit banged up on their defensive line. Actually, he's the weak side pass rushing linebacker. You know, it's not like the Rams aren't without their injuries as well. Both of these games went within 1 point. The first game was only 21-19 back in November. And then in December 18th, the Seahawks, you remember that 2-point conversion deal, won 38-37. That's the game that went way the hell over. Looking at the team stats on that day, both teams 6.6 yards per play exactly. Seattle rushed the ball better. The Rams passed the ball way better, right? The Seahawks had 3 turnovers and still won the game. Crazy to see that stat. The Rams had possession of the ball for over 40 minutes. If this evens out a little bit, that's another reason why I like the Seahawks in this spot. I think the Seahawks is just too strong on defense. It's going to be a defensive-themed day for me. Lay the points, -2.5, with Seattle Seahawks and the number 1 defense in the NFL.
They're great.
Now, it's time to bring on, from the Shoulda Bet More podcast and Bear Bets and VSiN, Mr. Will Hill. Now I'm very excited to welcome back one of our favorite guests, and Mr. Will Hill from Bear Bets VSiN is in the Shoulda Bet More podcast. You can follow Will on X at @NotTheWillHill. Well, man, we are finished with college football, and it's kind of like the transition is full go into college basketball. How are your things on that side of the country?
Always good, man. Getting ready for the snow. It's funny, the season that starts back in the summer, 32 teams. It's hot. It's it's August, it's September. Before you know it, it is frigid. You're waiting on some snow, and we're down to 4 teams. So excited to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. You're down to a brisk 68 today, so I'll see if I can get through. Got a lot to cover, though, man. You know, it's funny. It is such a quick switch into college basketball, and actually, not going to lie, the college football annoys me. And next year, it's even going towards January 25th, I hear, is the championship game. So I'm super annoyed by them. But on another note, we got to talk some NFL. Anything on these two games? I know, it's not like you have big options this week in the NFL. Maybe some props. What do you like for the first game? We got Denver without a quarterback, or with a ghost of a quarterback, and who hasn't played in a few years, and Jarrett Stidham. We're looking at about +5. I'm gonna be fair and call it +5 in some books, and a total of 42.5.
I like both dogs. I like Denver. I think everyone has had the same reaction opinion, which always scares me. It seems like everybody's on the same side of it. Everyone's agreement, but I can't disagree. And look, it's just one game. Just because you're getting extra points doesn't mean it's going to manifest. New England can still come out and win the game 30-0. It's just one game. This line should not be 5.5. Denver was favored on the look ahead. Bo Nix is not Josh Allen or Mahomes. He's an average quarterback, and Stidham's a pretty average backup. I know he hasn't played in a while, but I miss a kid. I remember when the Patriots were thinking about using him. It was right around COVID. Michael Lombardi, our old colleague, now the UNC GM, was talking about how he was one of the best recruits in the country coming out of high school. Now, I know it's high school NFL. It's not really relevant, but it's not like they're picking somebody out of the stands. It's like they're picking a fan out of the stands to play quarterback. He can play a little bit. Nix isn't that good. Peyton's had experience coaching up these backups. I think this line is inflated. I like Denver.
I do too, and I think Payton's going to slow this game down and play to Stidham's strengths and play a defensive game, be smart. Everything that the Texans didn't do is what Sean Payton is going to do in this game. So I with you. And I'm even looking at the under. I don't know why this keeps going up. And once it hits 43, I'm seeing juice 115. This makes no sense to me. I'm going to be taking the under, I think, at some point. So that's another thought.
Yeah, I don't like the over. I would lean towards the under. The only thing, man, if you had the under last week in the Patriots game, you're probably scarred because there was no offense in that game. Both those teams are under 4 yards per play, and you look up, and the total was 41, and it somehow goes over. So It's hard now in the NFL with these low totals to stay under because the kickers are better. They can kick from anywhere. Field position's better. But I'm with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I like the under, but
I'm sorry.
Boy, you got to be a little bit burned if you had Texans Patriots under last.
Whoever had that on I think you might have too. I'm sorry. That was all C.J. Stroud and DeMeco Ryans being complete idiots. In a wet day, you're throwing the ball on their side of the field. You should just be punting it every time and pinning them and using your defense. That was absurd. And that shouldn't have happened, but I don't think it's going to happen this game. Seahawks, it sounds like you like the dog a little bit. I kind of like the favorite. I guess we're a little disagreement here. I think I think that the refs are swallowing the whistles for the most part. What's really interesting is that the Seahawks at home really had such a close game with the Rams, and I kind of felt the Rams somewhat got screwed. That 2-point conversion was just so weird with the rule that a lateral is not a fumble. I'm still confused about that. I just think that the Seahawks are hot right now, and the Rams are just looking really bad against the Carolina Panthers and the Bears.
All of that is fair. It's a good spot for the Seahawks. They had a bye in round 1, and they basically had a bye in round 2 with San Francisco. I mean, that game was over after the kickoff return. I mean, a couple plays in it, you could have basically just turned that game off. That being said, it wasn't that long ago. These teams played on Thursday night, and the Rams – well, that game was a toss-up. The Rams were like a 1-point dog, a 1-point favorite some point in that line, some point in that week. The Rams are up 16 pretty late in the game. If they win the game, I mean, obviously they're the 1 seed, they're home, so that flips it. But everyone, the Rams are like the undisputed best team at that point. That was with no Adams. That was out with some key guys out, offensive line, defense. I think they're going to be a little bit healthier. I mean, you're going to have Adams back. You're going to be a little bit healthier here. I just think these two teams are close to even where I can't justify laying points. I still preferred Stafford to Darnold, who Maybe Darnold's fine with the oblique. Maybe he's not. I still prefer McVay, even though McVay, that was not his finest moment last week against the Bears. He really did not call a great game, and he admitted as much after. So I just think toss-up game, I'll take the 2.5. I did get a 3, I think minus 115 early in the week. I just didn't see how that number would be 3. But I'm happy with where I'm at. I would still take the 2.5. I think this is a coin flip game, so it should be a lot of fun. And I know we'll get to the beer bet bangers, but if I like both dogs, Circa had this number last night. I don't have access to Circa. I don't know if it's still up. The Rams to beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl plus 900. If you like both dogs and you just want a little action on the game this week, you'll go into, if you get your 2 upsets, you then go into the Super Bowl with a nice middle or just a nice number you want to write out. I don't think Rams over Broncos 9-1. I don't think that's a bad bet.
All right. Well, there you go. Rams over Broncos. Yeah, the NFC's minus 230 to win. I checked this morning. I was thinking about parlaying that with a few things myself. Making like a minus 200 close to even money, right? So I know I definitely like what you're saying there. I do think it's between Seattle and the Rams. I think this is the best 2 teams out there, and I think they're playing. This is kind of like the best part of the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Now, Patriots very fortunate to be where they are. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Well, that moves us to some college basketball, my friend. And, both of us love college basketball, and it is time. I always like to ask, different questions. I'm going to ask something I haven't asked yet this year. Who do you think the most disappointing power conference type team is this year in college basketball?
They've played better recently, so maybe my answer wasn't age well. I still thought Kentucky with Pope would have a better year than what they've had. They pulled out some of these games, down 16 at the half, down 17 at the half. They won a coin flip game against Texas on Wednesday night when they were tied at the half. I still thought this would be a much better team than what we've seen. So it's not a perfect answer. You could argue it's St. John's, even though they're probably going to be a 4 or 5 seed. I thought with Pitino, with their arc, with what they did a couple years ago where they were a snub, and then last year they're a top 10-ish team, a 2 seed. They got upset early. I thought they would keep rising. I don't like their point guard play. I know they played a little bit better recently, but I'm disappointed in St. John's and I'm disappointed in Kentucky, even though those teams are Kentucky's probably going to be a 6 or 7 seed if the tournament started today, and St. John's a little bit better. But I just personally thought those 2 teams would be a little bit better than they have been.
Makes total sense, and I actually talked about how disappointed I was with Kentucky last week with Kyle Hunter. So they were up there, but I'm going to stay in the SEC, and I'm going to raise you one with Ole Miss. What is going on with this Rebels team and Chris Beard? I thought this was going to be a big stepping up this year. You lose to Utah. You lose to Miami. St. John's handled you pretty well. But Jesus, the home loss to Auburn, I think I lost that bet. I thought this was kind of the time you're going to turn around, but you didn't. This team now at 11-8 is looking outside of the NCAA tournament. And a name like Chris Beard, you would assume would have this team up and going a heck of a lot more than they are now, especially from his Texas Tech days when he went to the national championship there. Barely beats a pretty bad Mississippi State team. So Ole Miss is my most disappointing team, Will.
That's a good one. Beard's not a guy you expect a disappointing season from. He's a tough coach, hard-nosed coach, and that is putting it lightly. Last year, they got in, they made a little bit of noise and played pretty well before they got bounced. So I'm with you. Ole Miss, you expect better things from as well.
All right. Well, let's get in some college basketball games for the week then. Actually, let's do buy low, sell high first. I had that written first. So let's do buy low, sell high. And this is an exercise we like to do every single week. I'm going to buy low on Xavier. And, I did bet them personally last night against at Creighton, and they covered. They didn't win. I was hoping they were going to win because I had a bid on the money line. But Richard Pitino is really a solid coach, and he lives in his dad's shadow. But what he's did at New Mexico, he had a bad deal at Minnesota. I think this team is kind of rising right now. So I'm going to be betting on Xavier as time goes. I think they have a tough game against UConn, but I still might be looking for a home dog here in Xavier coming up this weekend. So my buy low is Xavier.
Yeah, I like that one. I watched that ending last night, and I had a live under. I was hoping for not overtime, and he made a 2-point game. The kid makes the first one. He's about to make the second one, I think. They call timeout. They ice him. He misses, but gets his own rebounds and hits one at the buzzer to avoid an overtime, which was nice. I am going to stay in the Big East. Seton Hall has lost 3 in a row. They lost to St. John's by 5, a game where they were up pretty comfortably, let it get away. a bad loss at home to Butler and a close loss at home to UConn where they covered but didn't win. I just think this is a team, if you get them in the tournament, and right now they'd be right on the bubble, probably on the right side of the bubble. If you got in, we've seen Shaheen Holloway, the coach, we've seen his teams make run. They're feisty, they're big, they're long. They're just so hard to score on. And if you get tournament refs where they let that physicality go, I think they could be very dangerous and win a couple games. And if the bracket breaks right, who knows? Seton Hall is a team I am buying low on. They play at DePaul on Saturday.
I like it. And, unders with them coming up here, too. Not the greatest field goal percentage. Amazing defense, ranking 10th in defensive efficiency. Average possession length, 196, 275th in tempo. So I'm with you on that one. Sell high. Let's look for... I got a couple that I wanted to throw out there. I'm gonna go with Houston, and I do this every year at this time probably. But Houston's they're always suspect on offense with a great defense. But Houston has not played I guess a tough Big 12 schedule. They did, I will admit, have some pretty big wins against Arkansas. They also lost actually to Tennessee, but they did beat Auburn. But man, there's nothing in the single digits there. And, they got Texas Tech at home, but they got a tough game at Texas Tech away this weekend. I'm not super impressed about the way they play away from home. So Houston for me.
I'm going to be a little bit of ants at the picnic here. I know it's a great story. Miami, Ohio, 20-0. Look at the teams that are ahead of them in Bart Torvik. And they were very lucky to be. It was at Buffalo on Saturday. And then if Kent State could just inbound the ball on Tuesday night, Kent State wins the game. So they've been very fortunate recently. Some of the teams that are ahead of them, Yale, Stephen F. Austin, Northwestern, Grand Canyon, Wake, VCU, Boise State, Cal, Stanford. I know it's a great story. They're ranked, all of that. They got a loss or some losses coming. I don't think they're obviously not as good as their record, but I think this is a much better story than it is a team. So I am selling high here on Miami, Ohio.
I agree, and I'm sorry if you had Kent State, another overtime beat. Kent State is equal to Miami, Ohio, in my opinion, and one's ranked 89th in KenPom, one's ranked 147th. And how do you win all of your overtime games so far? All three of them and two of them away? That's some serious luck. So I'll write that down as well, the fade. Miami, Ohio, coming on up. Let's get into some games then, our six-pack of games. And I have a Friday one I picked, so I'll start. You're going to notice I'm doing a lot of stuff in the Big Ten, and you're going to notice I look at a lot of home-road splits. Indiana versus Rutgers +7, total 147, and we're just guessing the lines. I think the line's coming out about right now. But Indiana's on a 4-game losing streak after going through the gauntlet of 4 top 20 Big Ten teams. Indiana didn't even make any of these close. None of them, and sure, football, loved it, right? Best story in sports, man. That was just amazing seeing them win that world championship, but they just took a step back in basketball. Funny how they kind of seem to focus now on football. It's a huge change for this university. Rutgers is the worst team in the Big Ten, no question about that. But they at least rebound the ball decent. They rank 82 in defensive or offensive rebounding percentage now. Rutgers at least played pretty tough at home against Oregon and Northwestern. They have the wins. They played Ohio State at home, only lost by 7. This is more about fading Indiana. Hoosiers ranked 348th in away game expectation versus result on Haslametrics. I'm taking the home dog. I'm taking Rutgers +7.
I don't disagree. And by the way, watching Indiana, Michigan the other day, you have to wonder, as happy as Indiana is with the football title, and that would broke my heart having Miami futures at some ridiculous prices. And just, boy, it was a tough one. Tough. You have to think they played Michigan and say, man, did we really need to stick with Mike Woodson the extra year? Couldn't we have gotten rid of him and gotten Dusty May? Because he'd be set up right there with Cignetti coaching your football team and Dusty May coaching your basketball team with what he's doing at Michigan. I think Indiana probably made a mistake in terms of that one. I'll go Purdue, Illinois. What do you project this line to be? A Purdue 3.5, 4 point favorite?
I'm going to say 3.5, although those homes have been juiced, I will say. I wouldn't shock me if it's 4.5. But I want to see where you're going with it first. So let's go with 3, 4, 3. Let's go with 3.5.
Yeah, I'm going to lay it with Purdue. Purdue in a good bounce back spot after the tough loss to UCLA, where I think Mick Cronin is still whining about the schedule somewhere to whoever will listen. I don't like when teams lose their point guard. Boswell, handles the ball a lot for Illinois. He's a key defender. He's probably an NBA guy, second-round pick, probably not a first-rounder, but he matters. He's out. I thought they looked a little bit disjointed. Granted, they got by Maryland. They didn't cover on Wednesday night, though. And I just think on the road, especially without your point guard, this is going to be a tough environment against a hungry Purdue team. So I think Purdue in a bounce-back spot gets it done here against Illinois.
I love the spot with Purdue here. Agree with everything you said right there. You know, Purdue coming off that spot is just so huge, as a loss. And they shot 7 for 27 from 3 against UCLA. This is a bounce-back spot and one of those just Big Ten home spots. Big Ten home teams over the past few years, if any of you listeners have not paid attention, have been quite hot. Illinois, little fugazi. I mean, they got by Iowa. That's their best win in the Big Ten because they lost at home to Nebraska, and then they get to play Northwestern, Minnesota, and Maryland. Pretty much a cakewalk for them. I think they're actually going to be in a little bit of trouble against a motivated Purdue. I will be with you laying those points. I would lay it all the way up to 5 points, Will. So let's hope that it's 3.5 or be even better when this game tips off. Move on to the next game. I'm going to go with Tennessee versus Alabama. Alabama has, and I'm projecting 4.5. Alabama minus 4.5, and anything better than that be gravy. The total is 166. I think I just gave you my tell there. Alabama not looking great, but it's because of 3 injuries they sustained. Really 4, but they just got one guy back. The Vols do not look the same either. 6 losses this year, 5 losses away from home. Since Tennessee's big win against Houston, rough losses. Kentucky, Arkansas, Syracuse. How do you lose to Syracuse, man? Away from home is this is kind of going through my idea for the whole podcast. Away from home road splits. The Vols rank 344th on Haslametrics away from home, shoot only 49.5 effective field goal percentage away from Knoxville. The consistent thing against the Vols is, and this is kind of interesting, all their bad losses are against fast-paced teams. Kentucky, Florida, Arkansas, all those teams are burners. And now they're playing Alabama, the biggest burner of them all. More possessions, more margin. Tennessee is 6-12 ATS this year. 33% laying the points with Alabama minus 4.5.
Usually when we do these together, we do pretty well. So I will not be fading you. I will be tailing you, if anything. So I have to make a little note to myself to tail that one. I will go Nebraska and Minnesota. The undefeated Cornhuskers. What is going on in college sports? Indiana national champs in football, Nebraska undefeated in basketball. What is going on? I'm probably looking to be taking the points with Minnesota. 5-6. Do you think we're getting in that region? What do you expect the line to be on Saturday?
7.5.
I would love to take 7.5. Nebraska. Look, like Miami, Ohio. Great story. They're a really good team, and they're obviously much better than Miami, Ohio, but. Maybe a look-ahead spot to a big showdown against Michigan a couple days after. We've seen it before. Winning on the road is so hard in conference play. I mean, you go back to the UConn team 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that just blowtorched everyone in the NCAA tournament. They actually struggled in conference play, lost 3-4 games here and there, lost to Creighton, lost games to Marquette. It's hard to win in conference play. It's hard to get up for every game. I think Minnesota, getting an undefeated team in their building, getting 7.5 points, I think is a good spot for the Golden Gophers. I will be looking to take the home dog, especially if it's 7.5.
Absolutely. I'm with you completely on this one. It's funny. We both picked this game. We didn't know which side we were going to do, so we never say that. But I had to add another game because we both picked the same one. And I think it will be 7.5 just because everyone's been betting Nebraska. They barely didn't cover depending upon the line you got against Washington. But what nobody's talking about is who they lost last game. An injury. Braden Frager rolled his ankle, and I watched it, and it looked bad. Now, he's going to come back. It's not broke. We got the report, but he's day-to-day, which means he's not playing this weekend. There's no way he was in the walking boot like that. He's going to get out there after rolling the ankle the way he did and actually play. And if somehow he does, he won't be as efficient. He plays 56% of the minutes. He was a very solid sixth man. He's their best sixth man. That's a depth piece. And Minnesota, much better home team than they are against the road. They could have beat Wisconsin there. Wisconsin had that 3 at the end, and as well as USC. They also beat number 20 Iowa at home, Will. Yeah, I'm I'm on your side. I do hope it's 7.5 because that'd be great. I'm taking the home dog, but I like it all the way down to 4.5 or so. So I'm okay with whatever we get on this one. So 100% with you. Next game, I'm picking a Sunday game, USC versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin -7, total 161. I believe, because it's going to be a high total with USC. And I'm sorry, I'm going to put my homer hat on this time. I do fade Wisconsin a lot. But I was really hoping USC was going to win last night against Northwestern, but they didn't. So I wanted a little bit better with this line. But I'm still laying it. Wisconsin's a little undervalued. They're on a tear. Ever since that win against Michigan, they've had a lot of confidence. And has their losses against Nebraska, Nova, Purdue, and TCU aged well? I think so. I would say those are pretty good losses right now when you look at those four teams. Maybe not so much TCU, but definitely Nova and Nebraska and Purdue. The Badgers don't turn the ball over. 22nd in turnover ratio. Shoot a lot of threes. They make them at home. 56.5 effective field goal from the Kohl Center. Minus the overtime win at Minnesota. USC has been blown out in all of their other Big Ten road games. It's just so bad when they cross two time zones in the Big Ten, man. That's what we've noticed. They're in USC very injured. Rodney Rice, ever since they lost him after 6-7 games, he's been terrible. Rodney Cornish and Marion Dickinson also out. High pace, Wisconsin laying the points, -7.
What do we think we're getting for Georgia, Kentucky on Saturday?
Okay. Favored by what, 4, 5? Probably 5, right?
Yeah. I'm hoping it's a little less than that, but I'm still not a believer in this Georgia team. I just think they're one of these teams, and you know this from watching college basketball and digging into these stats. So many of these teams, the home road splits are so different on the road as compared to home, and Georgia just has not shot the three well. They got a nice win against Missouri that probably put them on the right side of the bubble for now and hit a late shot. But even in that game, 27% from three, winning another road game, 2 in 4 or 5 days here can be tricky.
Fade Georgia.
I'm looking to fade Georgia on the road, and yeah, same thing. Yeah, Texas, tough loss. Look, Texas is another one of these teams right on the bubble. And the coach called him out last night. Miller said we fouled too much. He had some colorful language in there. They do get to the line a lot, Texas, which offsets that. So Texas here laying a short number to, and I think it would be a pretty short.
It's going to be 1 here. Yeah, Texas will be laying 1. I think
Texas gets it done at home.
All right, I'm going to go with that one as well. Texas on Saturday. Is that all 3? I think that is our 6-pack, and
that's it.
Brings us to beer bet bangers. So I heard parlay might be in your future. What did you mention for our beer bet banger?
Rams over Broncos in the Super Bowl. Shop for the best number. I know Circa had 9-1 late last night, early this morning. Anything 8-1 or higher is a good bet because I think both dogs are live here. So the Rams to beat the Broncos, exact Super Bowl matchup is the market you're looking for. I think there is some value there. And if you get both of them home through this weekend, you either have a nice ticket on Super Bowl Sunday when you're sitting there with your wings and your nachos and your pizza, or you could really get greedy and go for middle and take the Broncos plus the points and cash in 8-1 and middle it, which, people that had Indiana futures at 150, 200-1 were able to middle that ticket, which is something I'm extremely jealous of. But Rams over Broncos, exact matchup in the Super Bowl. Anything 8-1 or higher, I think there's some value.
Then the Rams win, right?
Rams have to beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl.
Okay, because you can get plus 550 on just doing the money line parlay.
Yeah.
But you get 850 by adding the Rams to win, which I think is going to happen too. I think the Rams are going to beat whoever they play, and I'm betting the Broncos too. So it seems like a no-brainer to me. Absolutely love it. I'm going to go with Ole Miss, or not Ole Miss. I'm fading Ole Miss. Ole Miss, Alabama to make the Final Four. They're 40-1 now to win the national championship, and 9-1 right now on DraftKings and FanDuel to make the Final Four. Now, I'm hoping they're not in Arizona or Michigan's bracket. I'd be okay if they're in Iowa State. I don't love it. But look, man, I think they could move up to the 5th team in because of those injuries and because they have a wonderful coach there. I think they're going to start coasting here. I'm betting on them this weekend. But Alabama's losses are mostly based to temporary injuries where they're going to be getting these guys back. Now there's value on Alabama here, who was a Final Four team last year, thinking about it, coming up to the meat of their schedule. Maybe they lose in Florida, but I think they're going to be probably a 3 or 4 seed. If they can move up to a 2 seed, that'd be wonderful. But 9-1, yeah. I even like a little bit of 40-1 too, but we'll go easy on the 9-1 to make the Final Four, Will.
I like it, and I will say, as much as we love March Madness, we love upsets. The last 2 years, there have not been a lot of upsets, especially last year, round 1, there was nothing. Just looking at the soft part of the bracket, if you look at the projected bracket, I think it's top heavy once again. I don't know how many of these top 1, 2, 3 seeds, 4 seeds are going to get picked off. I just think this 11, 12, 13, 14 range, I think there's a gap. I think it's growing. NIL, the big schools have more money. I hate to see a world where upsets go away in March Madness. Maybe it'll just be a situation where when they do happen, it'll be even more special. But I don't know if you feel differently. I don't know that we're going to get upsets in this tournament. I think it's going to be chalky like it was last year.
Yeah, it's going to be chalky for the first 3 seeds for sure, in my opinion, when they keep going. I think there's a big kind of gap somewhere in there where – well, first of all, I think there's a big gap between Michigan and Arizona. I think then the next level is Duke, Houston, Iowa State, Purdue, probably Gonzaga, Illinois, and then I would even draw another line.
No, UConn? Would you throw UConn in there?
Well, according to KenPom, they don't like him so much. I something's wrong with this UConn team. They're not perfect to me. I know Seton Hall fought well against them, and they went to overtime at Providence. I don't know, man. I don't think UConn is what they were 2 years ago yet. They're talking a big game and they're winning games, but this Big East is not so good either when you have, Creighton ranking 53rd, right? I mean, what is going on here? You look at Marquette, 122nd, dude. This Big East is just not what it was before. Now, I will say UConn is probably included in my top 12 and then the rest. But to be honest with you, Will, if I could get a number on Michigan, Arizona, and let's just say Iowa State over the field, I would for the first time ever probably bet Michigan, Arizona, and Iowa State.
Oh, it's interesting. Okay, makes sense. And
normally I don't. I just
right.
think that Michigan and Arizona are such a force this year. Things can change. Injuries can happen. We don't know. And that's why you take some of these long shots. Hey, man, I would love to see Bama cash that ticket and get to the Final Four. But also love seeing Will. He's everywhere. This man's busier than with his kids and obviously on every single radio show that you can think of. My man, love listening to Will. Will, can you let our listeners and viewers know where they can get you great information?
Yeah, and not the Will Hill on Twitter, Fox Sports, Beating the Book Megapod, Should Have Bet More podcast. I am around. You can find me. So, Kev, excited for this weekend. Thanks for having me on. Always fun.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys check it, Will, at Not The Will Hill. Now it's time for a little UFC. 324 UFC is back after mid-December. Was it out for 6 weeks? Holy cow. Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. And this is going to be a fun fight. It's in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. Very familiar place for these guys. 30-foot cage. This one's simple for me. It's more of a parlay piece. Money's coming in on Paddy. I like Justin Gaethje, and he does fight for your dollar, but I just can't get it out of my head of him getting his ass completely knocked out by Max Holloway with a few seconds left. Almost 2 years ago, April 13th, 2024, one of the best endings of fights I've ever seen. Now, he did come back and beat Fiziev. He beat Fiziev twice. Fiziev is just... Gaethje's got his number, but Fiziev's not a wrestler. And Paddy can do it all. Paddy can wrestle. Paddy can punch. Paddy doesn't land quite as much as Gaethje, but he can land plenty. The problem with Gaethje is that he can get taken down. His takedown defense is 68%, and he doesn't take down too many people. I think when this wears on him, there's a chance that Paddy's going to get in on a submission, being that this is a 5-round fight. I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen, but I think the UFC wants Paddy Pimblett to win so they can have the big match him against Ilya Topuria for the belt. And Topuria's got his own issues right now. That's why he can't fight. So they're kind of making this intercontinental or intermediate, whatever title. And but either way, it would be the winner of at least Paddy Pimblett, or I think they might put Gaethje against him too, against Ilia Topuria when it all comes to fruition. But, I guess the striking advantage, maybe you would say it goes to Gaethje, but, I'm not 100% sure about that. Paddy's just getting better and better. And, hey, man, I was a sucker for fading Paddy too. I thought he lost to Gordon a while ago, and he just got better. That's something it's always hard to handicap. I kind of felt like he was just more of a show guy, kind of more of a doofus. Pardon my French, but man, that's just kind of how he acted to me, cocky as hell, right? And then all of a sudden, he got better, and that says a lot, and made me a fan of him a little bit more. Gaethje is more of a subtle personality. Paddy can't get cracked though. I mean, don't get me wrong. This can end poorly. Paddy's never been knocked out. He's been sub once, but it hasn't been since 2000 and way back 2013. I don't even count that. His last loss was 2018. But Paddy's been running through mostly easy competition. He took care of Chandler pretty well, but I always thought that Chandler was a little bit overrated. Bobby Green, Tony Ferguson, they didn't do it so much for me. But huge props to Paddy. Probably finishes by a sub, and you can get some plus money, about plus 130 by sub. But I like Paddy with a parlay piece, so I'm going to skip down to Jean Silva against Arnold Allen. And I like Arnold Allen a lot. He's a very sturdy dude. But Jean Silva, pissed off. He's coming back from that really tough loss against Diego Lopez, and that was in the second round. He just took a spinning back elbow, a spinning elbow, I believe, if I remember. Yeah, spinning elbow, then succumbed to punches. I thought he was better than Diego. Diego Lopez is badass. I mean, don't get me wrong. Diego has been cashing tickets for people for a long time. He did lose to Volkanovski, but I think the winner of this bout is going to fight Volkanovski finally, and I will probably be on one of these guys when that match comes up. But Jean Silva, he's getting a little pricey, and that's why I'm putting him in a parlay at the minus 200, minus 230 stage. But Arnold Allen, a little bit fugazi, losing to Avilov, and as well as Max Holloway. Of course, Max Holloway is a badass, but Max Holloway, older in his years, and Arnold Allen should have been able to take care of him. Avilov's like the most boring fighter in the world, but he does a great job at what he does, just standing up and jabbing, a little bit more like a Strickland type fighter. But still, it's like you should have been able to take care of him. I think that Jean Silva and his energy will be too much for even a pretty good technical fighter in Arnold Allen. I also like the Fight Nerds. I think the Fight Nerds do a fantastic job, getting their guys ready. I also think that being from Brazil, the grappling is going to give a pretty good advantage here to Silva as well. Silva lands more strikes, 4.79 to 3.45. He's more accurate, 51% to 41% from the grappling side. Like I said, sure, you usually take wrestlers like Arnold Allen over a lot of different people, but both guys over 75% takedown defense. Both guys can take you down, and believe it or not, Jean Silva is the better submission expert, 0.75 submissions per 15 minutes to 0.34 for Arnold Allen. So we're going to parlay that Jean Silva with Paddy Pimblett, and that's about plus 100 to about minus 110 in that range over at FanDuel Sports.
Well, I've been with the best, and I beat the best. I've retired more men than Social Security.
All right. Well, looking down this card, you have a great fight with Sean O'Malley and Song Yadong. And, this is interesting because O'Malley lost the 2 in a row to Merab Dvalishvili, and we just saw Peter Yan beat Merab Dvalishvili, who Peter Yan lost to Sean O'Malley, blah, blah, blah. Circle of death. Not the way we handicap. But Song Yadong's a badass, Kung Fu Song Yadong. And to be honest with you, was on the verge of being a champion not so long ago. His recent loss was to champion Peter Yan, and that's because Yan's more of a grappler, and that's where he couldn't get the best of him. But, Song is a great stand-up fighter. O'Malley clearly is going to have the reach advantage at 5'11", 72-inch reach, but Song hits harder. He just hits harder than O'Malley. O'Malley can knock you out. He's not weak by any means, but he hits harder. And he's been with plenty of grapplers in the past. He just smoked Henry Cejudo by technical decision. His last real submission hasn't been for quite some time, 2017, but O'Malley's got to be a little careful. I think it's priced correctly. That's my problem with that one. I guess O'Malley's probably going to be a very popular parlay piece, and word on the street is that O'Malley is remotivated now that Merab lost the belt and Jan's got it. And, O'Malley did beat Jan, which kind of disagreed with it. It's because he cut Jan, back in 2022. Jan didn't get another match with him. But, no, it's a good line, and that's why I want to stay away from it. Waldo's Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. So Derek Lewis is a big dog, but obviously you know how Derek Lewis is. He can knock anybody out at any time, if he just connects. And Derek getting a little bit older, 40 years old, Black Beast, 24 KOs, 1 sub, and 4 decisions. It's not often he wins by decision. He actually won. He hasn't won by decision since Latifi back in 2020, which I remember that fight, actually. I don't know. I think that Waldo Cortez Acosta was a boxer himself. He's 6 years younger. He strikes a lot more. I think it's a lot more possible that Waldo Cortez Acosta is going to knock out Lewis, being that he doubles him in significant strikes, and he's been a boxer and never been knocked out himself. He is careful, so it could go to decision, but a situation where I'm not laying the chalk with Cortez, I definitely would not put it in my parlay. 2 heavyweight fighters at minus 300. That's silly to do something like that. But the fact, the line says that this is not going to go to decision here. As a matter of fact, the line thinks that this is going to end around the end of the second round, plus 135 under 1.5 rounds for this one. So I do have a play on it, more of a prop than I like, but I gave you some hints on it. But that's where we're going to leave this one and move on to the next fight, which is Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Rose Namajunas is awesome. She's been there forever. 33 years old, but a lot of ring wear on her, right? She's been through a ton of fights. And Natalia Silva is the truth right now. She's just killing people. She's only 28 years old. She's in her prime. She's fighting extremely well, like surprisingly well, beating like Alex Grasso, Jessica Andrade, and when she won by these decisions, they were quite easy wins for her. I think she's going to win by decision again, but so does the market. The decision is highly juiced, like you're always going to get in these situations here. Looking by decision is the only way I could go, but it's not often where you see Rose knocked out and decisions minus 225. So it's just too much delay to have two things happen: one, a win, and two, the method of victory: sub, TKO, DQ, or decision. So not really interested in laying that. Maybe a decent parlay piece if you want to find one of those minus 150s earlier. Next fight, get down to the prelims. And first of all, Umar Nurmagomedov against Davison Figueiredo. Minus 1,500. Davison's massively disrespected at plus 850, but at the same time, Umar's just going to wrestle the shit out of him, and Davison's probably going to lose. But man, this thing is it's still overpriced, and it wouldn't shock me if someone took a big shot at Davison, and he'd have to win like 1 out of 10 times, almost to make this bet make sense. Plus 850, it's probably less than an 11% at 8 plus 850 because there's juice in there, because the other side's 1,500, right? Which is 93% probability. So there's juice between the 7% and the 11%. So, yeah, passing on this one. I'm going to go down to Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. And Alex Perez is plus money at plus 150. And we're going to give you Alex Perez at the plus 150 here. I think Perez is been just a lot of bad luck. He's had a ton of bad luck in his fights. And look at just look at the gauntlet he had to go through. Tatsuro Taira, Mohamed Mokaev. He actually was winning against Mokaev until that third round. Alexander Pantoja, he got subbed. Davison Figueiredo, which we know was great, especially back in 2020 he was. The guy has been just kicking butt, but he just kind of gives up at the end. But Charles Johnson, man, this guy doesn't have a heck of a lot of grappling on his side. He never loses by KO or submission, but if Perez can just grapple him the whole time, I think that, he can win this fight. Charles Johnson has some weird losses himself to Temirov. I don't even really remember who Ramazonabek Temirov really is. He has, his last fight was against Charles Johnson. He hasn't really fought since then. He's got 2 UFC fights. His last fight was last March. What the hell happened to him? I will say that weird fight against Joshua Van, how he beat Van by just punched him out. I think he got lucky, and that's probably what's keeping this number so good for you, for Alex Perez. You take away that Joshua Van win, and Perez is probably the favorite here. So I see value on Perez here. Perez has the grappling skill that should be able to beat Charles Johnson. Hopefully he just keeps it on the ground and is smart about that. His submissions is 0.76 per 15 minutes. He's going to try to take you down, and Johnson's takedown defense is okay at 66%, but I don't think it lasts. Take Perez at the plus 152 for 1 star. So those are my plays. The parlay with Paddy Pimblett and Jean Silva, as well as Alex Perez. We're taking Purdue minus 3.5. Minnesota plus 7.5. Both me and Will like that one. Rutgers plus 7 for Friday. Bama minus 4.5. Wisconsin minus 7. Will also likes Texas minus 1. And obviously the Seattle Seahawks is one I added to the NFL to go along with the Denver plus 5.5. I like Seattle minus the 2.5. Will has disagreement, but that's okay. We're going to do that for this weekend, and we're going to chalk that and tally them up next week. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you can have a minute, please rate, review, and subscribe. We need 5 stars to help us with the algorithm. If you have any questions for us, email us at info@theoddsbreakers. Always looking for more great cappers here at theoddsbreakers.com. Enjoy all the games and go get some winners.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.